Kids Coaching Clinic with a man who's taken 500 Test match wickets. It would be remiss of us not to talk about seam bowling with Stuart Broad, but you didn't start off as a seamer, did you?
No, I was an opening batsman through most of my sort of youth, and I bowled a little bit. You know, so I always bat and bowled in the garden, and I bowled at school, but with the keeper stood up and just bowled little swingers, really. So, yeah, it was almost a bit of fate that I had a growth spurt when I was late 16, turning 17, and the ball started bouncing a bit more, and away I went. With
that growth spurt, did it come with injuries? Did it come with back problems? Because as kids grow up, they might suffer some of these back complaints. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't for me, fortunately. I was quite lucky, I think. But yeah, it was. I actually see it was quite lucky for me that I didn't have huge workloads when I was in my teenage and growing years, and then so I wasn't carrying injuries through to when I made it professionally. But yeah, you just have to manage the amount you bowl. You can't go out and bowl every day of the week. Even now, playing international cricket, we try and bowl 2 days maximum and then have a day off. If you start bowling 3 or 4 in a row, that's when your body comes under huge pressure. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend playing every day of the week and bowling 10 overs a day, but obviously I don't go too long without bowling as well, because if you don't bowl for 2 weeks and then try and bowl at high intensity, that's when your body's at risk as well.
Would you encourage...
Sorry, you've been incredibly lucky with yourself and Jimmy in terms of injuries over that period of time. I say lucky, clearly you look after yourself, both of you, but is there a bit of luck of the draw there that some bowlers are just a little bit more injury prone?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think we have been lucky, and yeah, we try and look after ourselves, but also both of us have got actions that we grew up with, and you know, we've not made huge changes to our actions that puts our adult body under pressure. I'm a believer that you're generally at your best if you're at your most natural. So I know Jimmy had a slight tweak at 20 years old because his head was really like looking at the floor, and he had to make a little tweak there. But he did get injured off the back of that and missed 6 months cricket. But both of us have got actions that, if you watched us bowl at 15, would look pretty similar with some technical tweaks. And I think that's why our bodies have taken well to it.
Right, hold that, because you might want to demo a few grips, etc. You've got the list.
It's a good start.
Videos are coming.
We've got Max from Doncaster, who's got quite a slingy action. And you talk about bowling kind of naturally, Stuart. He's got quite a low slingy action there. You can think of many international bowlers who do. You're a bit more over the top. Is there a disadvantage in being slingy or not?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, you can note some brilliant bowlers that have been a bit slingy. I think the huge advantage to that would be if you could have the option to do both, be a little bit slingy at times, and then also have times when your action gets right over the top. Then you're an extremely dangerous bowler. I look at when I was growing up, Darren Gough was probably someone who could do that, particularly in white ball cricket.
Can you do it?
No, I can't actually. I mean, not very naturally. I think our action, someone like Jofra Archer's action, where you are quite straight and over the top, it's quite hard to do. But actually, when you're trying to bowl Yorkers in white ball cricket, to be able to sling the ball a little bit more is a great skill to have.
Easier to bowl Yorkers with a slingier action.
Definitely, and the way to maybe tweak your action to try and get your arm a bit higher in bowling would be just to do a couple of simple drills, and that wouldn't be to try and lose any slinginess when you wanted it. But sometimes we get so obsessed with it. I'll do it right-handed, but you get so obsessed with your bowling arm all the time. But actually, that's just a reaction to everything else that's happening. So if your front arm leaks away before we bowl, then you're having to balance somewhere else. So it means your bowling arm can go a bit further that way. So when I get a bit slingy or a bit tired, for me in Test match cricket, I try and concentrate on my front hand not going there, because that means that's going to count. I try and touch my shoulder as a drill. So it might not happen every ball, but I just try and as if I'm touching the peak of my shoulder to keep my straight line there, which hopefully, ideally, allows that arm to come over in a straight line as well. If it comes out there, it's a lot harder to get the plane back to a straight line and over the top. But no, it's worth trying. I wouldn't do it with Max's action now. I wouldn't try and revamp that action at all, because I bet you that swings back into the right-hander's pads, which is one of the most dangerous balls in cricket.
Who's next, Adam?
Well, we go, to the other end of the scale, really, talking about a slingy action to somebody who comes high and over the top. This is Adam Smith, who's 14, and you can see he's got a very high action. He probably goes slightly beyond the perpendicular, which you'd call. And again, is that a problem if you're completely the other way, almost behind your head slightly?
I don't think so. Again, it looks very natural. It's a really nice straight-lined action. I feel that action there would be more of a seam bowling action, nipping the ball back, hitting the stumps. But the key to that is not making sure that your front arm stays strong and stays straight, because if that starts going early again, you'll really lose it. I mean, I had it in international cricket for 18 months, 2 years, where I was falling over a little bit too much, getting slightly past the perpendicular, and when you're playing international cricket, it's so hard to change. I actually needed a bit of a break, and in Sri Lanka I didn't play and change that. But that's the only danger with that side of action, that you can get too far. But that looks a really nice straight-lined action.
The next two, Noah Price and then Tom Phillips, we'll go with Noah first of all. With both these videos that were sent in, the question was, how do we increase pace? So this is Noah Price, who's 11 and at Friarmere Cricket Club. And I think it was his dad who sent in the video saying, how do we increase pace? Any simple exercises to improve pace and strength?
Yeah, pace, to me, it's all about finding your optimum tempo. So to bowl quicker doesn't mean you've just got to sprint in quicker, because actually you might be less balanced at the crease, which causes you to lose a lot of accuracy and a lot of pace. The key to bowling is that balance at the crease to be able to whip over your front leg and snap into the pitch. So we've seen someone like Mark Wood increase his run-up length to try and make it a bit smoother, and we've seen his paces over the last, I mean, he's always been a quick bowler, but his paces over the last year have been fantastic. So there's times that you could maybe extend the run-up, but that doesn't mean to sprint in all the way. Build your momentum, build your pace. I try and keep in my mind that I'm like a show pony, like my knees get high, because if I go
on so many levels.
if my knees go out, I get long in my run up, which when I get long at the crease, I lose the snap. So I try and imagine that my feet are tapping the ground quicker than they are. I mean, when I go and look at my foot marks at the end of a test match, I can't even get near my strides, they're so long. But in my mind, I'm going short, sharp, short, sharp, short, sharp, which keeps me balanced to be able to deliver the pace at the crease.
I've heard you talk about Jofra Archer when you stood at mid-off, and you know when Jofra's bowling at his quickest, because you can hear him kind of pitter-patter into bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I love standing at mid-on to Joff, because you can really, those spells where he really ramps it up, you can see his stride pattern short, but really quick and really dynamic. So that doesn't mean you have to gather pace straight away. You want to be at your optimum about 3 paces from the jump of the delivery stride, but get energy in that run-up and just play with it.
Let's rattle through them then.
Yeah, Tom Phillips. So we've got front on and sideways on of Tom here. It's a similar thing. He says he bowls about 65 miles an hour, wants to know how he can get a little bit quicker. The side action is quite interesting. You're talking about bowling over your front leg. It's not quite braced, but I mean, it's not a thing you want to change necessarily, is it?
You say it's not braced. It's not braced when we paused it there, but actually,
if we ran it through,
if you run it through, it's actually really similar to me. How the leg actually straightens, so a lot of pressure will come on the hamstring there. They'll get naturally strong, but that whip is fantastic.
Right.
It's the studs go into the ground, and the leg braces at the impact. You have to be quite strong to do it in your hamstrings, but it really does give you a bit of extra height in the bowling action and pace.
So that looked pretty good.
It looked great, yeah.
Lucas, who's 8, and we were talking about run-up a minute ago. This is a classic decelerating run-up. So he really slows up as he gets to the point of release. Brother Aaron is doing the fetching from behind the stumps, but that would be a good example of what you're talking about, Ron. He kind of loses momentum to the crease there.
Yeah, he does. It was quite an easy thing to fix. Actually, sometimes that's mental. It can be thinking way too much about delivering the ball instead of relaxing in. It's amazing, even at the top level, you could get a bowler to run without a cricket ball and it looks completely natural and brilliant. You put a cricket ball in the hand and it gets a bit nerve-wracking and unnatural. So we do a lot of straight line running as England fast bowlers, whether it's over 20 metres or 40 metres, and we talk a lot about technique because that protects you when you get into your 8th, 9th over. But yeah, with that, I would do a little bit of straight line running, to be honest, without a cricket ball, and then straight line running with a cricket ball without bowling. And then it will just become more natural when you get to the stumps to increase your pace rather than getting a bit nerve-wracking, a bit scared.
Joey, who's 10, bowls in swingers, and you can see why, and maybe wants to know how he can get it going the other way. Quite an open-chested action. I mean, that's not like you, but you had that kind of issue where you slightly fall away and your wrist comes that side of the ball. And what would be simple techniques to try and get it going the other way at bowling straight lines?
First of all, don't be scared by the ball going into the stumps to the right-hander. It's one of the most dangerous balls in cricket. I think it used to be a bit of a thing where coaches would be like, no, you've got to swing everything away. Well, I don't believe you do. Look at Jofra Archer. He's come onto the scene and he nips the ball back to the stumps. There, the feet aren't quite aligned to the stumps. What you ideally want, with Glenn McGrath as an example, when I was a kid, is his feet would be perfectly aligned to off stump.
So Joey's more kind of...
So his foot goes a little bit splays out to the left, which means, again, theoretically he's then going to bowl, he should be bowling that to where a gully would field. So a little simple drill to try and get both those feet aiming at off stump. Actually, Otis Gibson, who's a great friend and coach of mine, used to tie a bit of string to off stump and walk it all the way back to the end of my run-up and say, follow that piece of string, because that will lead you into bowling into off stump. I mean, that's the most simple drill you can do, but it's brilliant.
Ronnie Gerard, who's 10, cricket club up in Leicester, not far from you, Broady. Just
the Jimmy Anderson
tell me
head.
more. Seems to collapse a little bit at delivery, but pretty good.
Pretty good. The front arm is a little bit weak there, and actually, I have that. So it's something you can get around. But the reason I wear a sweatband is so it gives me a visual of the front arm, so I can try and aim it at off stump, and then I can see if it's leaking off. I mean, I've worn a sweatband in my left wrist now for 8-9 years now, not just in Sri Lanka, even in the cold of Manchester at times, because it is a visual of me aiming at off stump. So it might be worth just putting a sweatband on so you're more aware of where your front arm is going, because if it leaks too far, all your energy is leaving you. If you can throw that front arm, that front leg at off stump, that action looks really good.
And similar for Jimmy, I think, who's 7, who's got an interesting run up here because he's got to jump over to get onto the concrete bit. But again, that kind of front arm drops very, very quickly.
Yes, but I don't mind. The one thing I noticed in that run-up was actually the jump, which is supposed to be from left foot to right foot, was right foot to right foot, which it's quite unique. I really like to see unique run-ups, but
can we have a look at that again and just show Jimmy and show what Stuart means?
Easy to lose a bit of momentum when that happens. So this is brilliant, and then this goes right to right.
Yeah.
So you're losing a lot of energy in your legs there. You're relying so heavily on your right leg to get you momentum into the crease. So it would be
Would you walk through a drill then? So
Absolutely.
walk from left into right and do it really slow?
Absolutely. And actually, we've started training as England bowlers, actually taking the pace completely out of it, because it makes you much more aware of what your body is doing. I think golfers have started doing it, and
so
rugby
you break things down into simple component
Take it down
parts.
to 30%, and it's actually really hard. If you bowl it into the side netting, it doesn't matter. I do at that pace because it's so unnatural. You're not relying on any momentum, but it makes you really aware of where your hand is, where your front arm's going, where your legs are landing, and it's just a great way of getting awareness of your bowling action.
Zach, who's got quite a nice action, I think. He's a little bit flowery, I'd say, with that front arm. It's not a strong front arm. I don't know what the advantage of a stronger front arm is, but...
So I think that starts in the run-up there. Do you notice I couldn't see any arms running there? There's no arms giving energy into the run-up, and then eventually the arms fly out. You see, there's no arms, no arms, and then suddenly it's like the arms come to life. I think maybe we should be using the elbows, almost push the elbows back behind you, get the momentum through the front top half of the body, and then it's a more natural straight line jump. If there's no arms, then they come to life. Well, where are they? If they're moving in this straight line, and then they're much easier to get into a position when you've got the momentum from your run-up.
Good. Henry Hinchcliffe, who's a left arm. I've had a few left armers in, but I've chosen Henry because it looks a nice action. He looks as though he gets the ball swinging, but he's coming round the wicket. Generally, a left armer would start over the wicket. It's more dangerous if you can swing it back from the right-hander from over.
Sam Curran in that. We'll see him today. Yeah, I mean,
Sam's height.
It's great to have both options, over and round. If I could give any advice to take away from this as bowlers, practice going over the wicket, practice going round. Never just focus on one. A big mistake I made in my career when I started going round the wicket to the left-handers, I practiced that so much I actually forgot how I was doing it over the wicket to the right-handers. So always do both. With that shape, yes, I would say start over the wicket because you want to be looking for the LBW and bowled from there. But always go around the wicket. It's such a different angle for batsmen to face, and it's so dangerous.
Austin, who's 10, who is a Yorkshire lad, I think, but lives in Sydney now, sent us this video of him bowling at his dad, and he just kind of falls away, doesn't he, at delivery there slightly. The head goes to the offside.
We've seen a lot of videos where the action is falling away. At that age, it's so hard to keep yourself up because you haven't got the strength in your body. Naturally, the older you get, you'll be able to hold your body in a straight line when you get to there. I did notice the front foot just leaked out slightly, which again will mean that your head will fall. It's all about
follow it.
It will follow. So if I was running in with that action, I'd be thinking, right, I want to get my front foot at off stump, and then everything else will follow. So it's just a little drill. As Wardy mentioned, you could do that at 30% to start to get a feeling for it. But in my mind, I'd be thinking not where my right wrist is to bowl. I'd be thinking where my left foot is when I'm looking to get to the crease.
Couple more. William Bermonge, Benedict's lad, our scorer's lad.
From the cat flap end.
From the cat flap end in Bristol. He's in slow-mo and looks pretty good. William's 7 and Benedict sent us the video, so we thought we had to get this video in, but that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
You're talking
brilliant.
about the front position of the front foot.
Yeah, it's a bit sort of Freddie Flintoff-like,
Yes.
with the left foot sort of pointing in slightly. Mine points the other way, mine goes out the other way, but I walk a bit like that. So I think you do whatever's natural, but if I could, what I'd be trying to do there is get that front foot, that left leg, that foot facing towards the target, purely because it takes the stress off the body when you get a bit older.
Have we got time for one more? Jack Harper. We've done these all summer. Jack Harper is the youngest participant we've had, 20 months old, and parents say loves the game already, and looks in good fettle. He bowls a second one and knocks the stumps over as well.
It's the first one we've seen when they put the bails back on as well. He's the youngest
has another go.
participant.
What age did you start going, Stuart, do you reckon?
Well, I've got pictures at about that age, but with
I've seen pictures of you with your old man when he was playing at Notts and you were at Trent Bridge as a young kid.
Yeah, I also, Courtney Walsh used to bowl at me when we were at Gloucestershire as well, which is quite surreal thinking back now. But yeah, I mean,
and now you've got more wickets than him. Or not
yet,
quite.
not
yet.
You will have. Not yet. I hope so. Touch wood.
Well, that was brilliant, Stuart. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you to everyone who sent those videos in. I hope you found that entertaining and slightly instructive in that coaching clinic.